What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Sorry for no upload yesterday. I was very busy and I wasn't able to get the time to film this video because I do want to put a little bit more time and research into my videos. Now, there's been a lot of people complaining in the comments of these videos saying that I'm making up trade rumors or starting stuff. Please go on Twitter, go on TSN, go on Sportsnet, and read these articles from people who have broken huge trades before. I'm not saying that this trade is going to happen. I'm not saying that any of this stuff is going to happen. I'm just giving my thoughts and opinions on what I'm reading and what I'm hearing from actual sources, from people that anybody can read. I don't have like these like special sources that nobody has that are fake and all this stuff. Guys, just watch the video. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to finish watching it. This is just my opinion. I'm a Leaf fan. I'm educated with the game, and in terms of trade rumors, I've done videos like this forever. So today I'm talking about Frederik Andersen. Now, a lot of people are like, he doesn't suck. The Leafs defense sucks. The whole time he was here, he doesn't deserve to be traded. You know what? I pretty much agree with all of that, to be honest with you. I like Frederik Andersen. I think he's fantastic, but what some Leaf fans need to do is to separate, emotional feelings towards a player and, the player itself in the game of hockey with your favorite team. Because while I do like Freddie and I like having a team that sticks around together and, wins together, you have to understand that there's things that come in the way, like a global pandemic that causes a salary cap to be flat for the next 3 to 5 years, which means the no money is going up. It's going to be at 81.5 million for quite some time. And if it was going up to the 84 million it was supposed to, and then the next season to 87 or 88, the Leafs wouldn't have a problem with keeping Freddie around and giving him a raise. But the problem is that with this flat cap, Freddie Andersen's being paid $5 million, and if the Leafs can find a suitable replacement in the $3 to $5 million range, they will do it. Frederik Andersen is an unrestricted free agent after the season, which means that he will be able to walk away from the Toronto Maple Leafs for nothing. The Leafs will get absolutely nothing in return from him, which would be poor asset management. Freddie Andersen in free agency is going to demand $6 million plus at least. He's being paid $5 right now. The Leafs will not be able to afford that number unless they make substantial moves, and I don't know if it's worth it to do that. Now, I'd love Freddie to stick around. And people are suggesting that maybe the trade rumors are to get him to stay at the $5.5 million range to stay a Maple Leaf, which, I mean, could work. It could. But at the same time, it's poor asset management if the Leafs don't at least look at what his value is right now. Because Freddie Andersen probably gets you a pretty good package back. And obviously, you could either get the goaltender before you trade away Freddie, or you can use the assets that you get from Frederik Andersen to trade for another goaltender, or you can sign an unrestricted free agent in free agency because there are a ton of goalies. Now, what I will remind you guys of is that there is an expansion draft coming, and that all teams can only protect one goaltender, which means that there will be a lot of very good backups in this league, or guys who are pretty much starters that will be exposed, and there's nothing they can do about it unless they make a huge trade with Seattle to make sure they don't take that player. And that could be a lot, considering if that goalie's good enough to be picked to be a starter or a very suitable backup on a new expansion team, because it happens. Expansion drafts means you lose probably a player you didn't want to lose for nothing. So there is a ton of options for the Maple Leafs, and if the Maple Leafs want to explore the market for Freddie Andersen, it makes sense. He's a good goaltender. Look at his numbers, okay? This past season, 2.85 goals against average. He did well. He made a lot of saves. His save percentage isn't in this particular graphic. I'm not sure why, but he hovers in the 900 to 910 basically throughout this past season, but he's had better numbers. Like, this statistically is one of his worst seasons as well. It's his worst as a Maple Leaf for sure, but in terms of his career, this is probably one of his worst seasons in terms of consistency, because Freddie had a lot of games this year where he looked really bad, and even when the Leafs were looking good, he looked really bad, and people are like, oh, he was an all-star. Okay, separate the months that before or after the All-Star game, and like even leading up to the All-Star game, Freddie Andersen was not playing like an All-Star goaltender. And this is not me trying to like tear him down and be like, I want this to happen. But in terms of saving money, if the Leafs can save a couple $1 million and get a goaltender that's just as good as Freddie, or a goalie that is good and can play as a 1A, 1B with Campbell, and then the Leafs can take that money and put it into more defensemen, you're winning because you're getting a good goaltender. You have Jack Campbell, who's pretty good as well. He can handle some games. And you're getting defensemen that can actually play defense, which is something the Leafs haven't had a lot of. So you're going to be able to do that. These numbers suggest that Freddie Andersen it would be able to be an upgrade on a lot of teams. But that inconsistency is something that the Maple Leafs would have to continue to work with throughout this season. And I don't know if the Leafs want to continue to do that. Another team might want to do that. I don't know. But we'll have to see. Now, this is the reason why I'm bringing this up, and a lot of people have brought this up. There is a ton of options in the unrestricted free agent market and restricted free agency market, which teams might be able to make trades. Like Braden Holtby, he made $6.1 million this past season. He had a really bad year. He's probably not going to make that much in free agency. Do the Leafs take a flyer on him and try to get him at that $5 million range or even less? Because getting him at $5 million wouldn't make sense, because then you're just trading off a goaltender who's probably been worse than Frederik Andersen. So Holtby, to me, unless you get him at a ridiculous price, which is like cheap as hell, it's not going to happen. So I wouldn't put Holtby in that ballpark. Corey Crawford, now that's interesting. I think he would probably want to stay in Chicago, but we'll have to see what happens there. Pretty good goaltender, $6 million cap hit. Does he get a raise? Does he stay at his number? Or because of this pandemic, do a lot of teams get goaltenders cheaper? And that's the other thing that people have to understand. There might be a lot of teams that can't afford to pay goaltenders or pay players. Now, people are like, well, the Leafs their salary cap is bad too. Here's the trick. The Maple Leafs have done this with a bunch of players. They front load contracts and they give massive bonuses out on July 1st. Those bonuses are not paid by the salary cap. Those bonuses are paid by Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. They're paid by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So they might be able to get a player or a goaltender cheaper than what's being offered somewhere else by giving a massive signing bonus and just hand a check over to a player with a boatload of money, because they have the money to do that. There are some teams that can't afford to pay players on their salary cap and their signing bonuses and all their other bonuses that they have. The Maple Leafs have an advantage there. Like, look at John Tavares. He was offered $13 million by San Jose, and they didn't have the bonus money that he was being offered in Toronto either. So he took less money on the salary cap because he knew he was making all of that back and more with bonuses. So you have to take that into consideration. But Crawford would be a little expensive, but I'm not really sure. Now, Jimmy Howard, probably not going to happen. Robin Lehner's interesting because he's very good. Robin Lehner is very, very good. He's been a really good goaltender. Now, do you trade Freddie and pay him a little bit extra to know that you have a bona fide starting goaltender? Or do you take a flyer on him and realize that he's probably going to be too expensive for you? That's what you weigh out. Or do you just keep Freddie Andersen? Again, these are just options. Craig Anderson, don't see it. Matt Murray's an interesting one. 26 years old, restricted free agent. He's going to get a raise, but how much of a raise is the question, because he's making 3.7. He didn't have the best year. He had statistically a worse season than Freddie Andersen, but if you get him cheaper than Freddie and he plays like he did when he won those 2 Stanley Cups, and he's only 26 years old, so you're making a bet on a guy that's a little bit younger, do you get him at a cheaper number? Can you get him at 4.5 and lock him up for a few years? I don't know. That's up in the air as well. You have to figure out what it would cost to acquire him as well. Jacob Markstrom's really interesting. He made $3.6 million restricted free agent. He's an unrestricted free agent. I would imagine the Canucks have him as a high priority. They also have to deal with Toffoli's contract, but Vancouver has a lot of really bad contracts. People don't realize, like, look at what the Leafs got for Kapanen, right? They got a first-round pick and a good prospect. The Canucks are not going to get that for guys like Jay Beagle and Louis Eriksson. Those guys don't even want to get traded. So you have to consider the fact that the Leafs are in a better spot where they can trade guys like Kerfoot or Janssen or a Justin Hall or a Travis Dermott or whoever. Those guys still have value. Some of these other guys on other teams that are getting paid out the ass don't have any value at all, and teams are not interested. And some of those players have like no movement clauses and no trade clauses, stuff like that. So Vancouver's going to be in a tough spot, although I would imagine Markstrom's first on their list. I think he stays a Canuck, but do you pay a little bit extra to get him as your starter in Toronto? I don't think it's going to happen, but that's a decision that they'll have to make Thomas Greiss. I mean, he's a good goaltender. You split time with him and Campbell. Maybe you can get him at 4.5. Maybe you can get him at 4. I don't know. He's not. I don't think he's going to get paid that much. But if you can get him at 4, that'd be fantastic. I would think the Islanders would want to hold on to him. Cam Talbot, I don't know if I would go after him. I don't think it would be worth it. He played good this year, but I'm not really sure I'd want him as a 1A, 1B. Khudobin is another guy that I would be very interested in. But the way Dallas has been playing in their way in the playoffs this year, he might not be the best option in terms of he might not be available. But if he is, if I'm the Leafs, I'm offering him $3.5 million. I'm offering him 3 or 3.5. You're saving a little bit of money, and then you've got Khudobin and Campbell as your guys. And Khudobin's proven that he can handle games. He's been fantastic, right? So you have to see that there is options for the Maple Leafs, and that it's not the end of the world if Freddie Andersen is moved on from. But the only way they're going to move on from Freddie is if they know that they've got another guy that they can utilize in that spot. That will give them either very close to the same production or more, because that's what you want, obviously. But the whole thing is that the Leafs want to save money to be able to spend it on their blue line, which I don't think anybody is denying would be, like that's a perfect scenario for Leaf fans. They want the defensive end to be patched up a little bit. All right, this is where people are going to either get really pissed off or say that I'm making sense. There's an expansion draft coming up. The Rangers have 3 goaltenders, okay? Gorgiev has been in the rumors the whole time. Good luck trading that Lundqvist contract. It's not going to happen, and I don't think he wants to leave. And, you could just utilize him as a backup who has a ton of experience that can teach, their goaltenders. But you have to decide who's going to move on. But it's been quite apparent that I think Gorgiev's the guy that they're considering moving on from in New York. It just seems to be the guy that's been in the rumors the past little bit, or they find a way to get rid of Lundqvist, which could happen. I don't know. This is just a suggestion. So Gorgiev didn't have the best goals against average this year, 3.04, and his save percentage was 910. But if you look at his age, you look at the numbers that he's been putting up, this is a guy that you would go, okay, what's he going to cost? Because, I mean, a lot of people are like, oh, the Leafs are never going to get Gorgiev for just Kapanen. They're going to have to give up a first-round pick and Rasmus Sandin and all this other stuff. Well, it doesn't look like you're going to have to give up all that to get him now. Could you have to possibly give up a good prospect in a second-round pick? Maybe. Maybe it's a first and a decent prospect for Gorgiev. I don't know. We have to read the market here, because it's kind of a crapshoot, because he didn't put up like the craziest impressive numbers. Those are good numbers, but they're not great. So I don't know how much it would take to get a guy like Gorgiev, but he's good. He's a good goaltender. He's young. He has lots of time to grow. You compare him again with Jack Campbell, who's quite inexpensive. And you're probably not going to be paying him $5 million. You're definitely not. You're paying him probably 3.5, if that. Because it's not like he's some proven goaltender in the league yet. So take everything that you're hearing with a grain of salt, because this is just my opinion. Of course, I just smashed my hand off my desk. That's great, but it's just my opinion. I want to hear your thoughts and opinions down below. I love Freddie Andersen. He's a great goaltender. The series against Columbus wasn't his fault. Everybody knows that. He had like a .936 save percentage. But it comes down to money. It comes down to the salary cap. And if the Leafs can find a way to get a goalie that can be a good 1A, 1B, or if they can find another goalie that's going to be just as good, if not better, for a similar price, or you pay a little bit more and get an even better goaltender, they're going to do that. They want to allocate more money to their blue line, as much money as possible to make that blue line better. And I think that that's a good sign, because you want a good goaltender paired with good defense. But in order to get that good blue line, you might have to sacrifice getting a new goaltender to save some money. And if they can lock up a guy like Gorgiev to a 3 or 4 year deal, and it's not going to cost you that much, and you're able to trade for him, and it's not going to be breaking the bank, it makes sense. If you can do that with another goaltender, if you can do that with Matt Murray, I don't know. You have to take that with a grain of salt again. But I'm just giving you guys my thoughts and opinions. So if you are new to this channel, make sure to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I do love and appreciate you guys, as always. Thank you so much for the support, and go Leafs go. And there's more NHL videos coming, not just the Leafs, but I appreciate you guys. See you in the next video or stream. Peace.